Hello and welcome to Build Back Better, brought to you by For the Region. Wales is ranked third in the world in recycling, something for us all to be very proud of. But over a third of our general waste is food, which is an unbelievable thought when so many in our communities are going hungry and struggling to afford food. Also has a massive impact on climate change. So what's already happening and what can we do to reduce food waste? Today is the start of Food Waste Action Week, and we're delighted to be joined by a number of organisations who are already working hard to implement change.
It's a delight to be here today on our first ever Food Waste Action Week in the UK. My name's Charlotte Henderson and I'm a programme manager at WRAP working on reducing food waste coming from households. WRAP is one of the largest environmental charities within the UK, but we also work globally. We work with governments, organisations, as well as individuals to use resources more sustainably. Today is very much about getting the message across that wasting food feeds climate change. And I know that a number of people on this call are already behind the work that we're doing and are supporting Food Waste Action Week, as well as our work with Guardians of Grub.
Hi everyone, thank you so much for inviting Puffin Produce along today. So my name is Clare Stansfield. I am the marketing manager at Puffin Produce based in Pembrokeshire. We are a large grower of potatoes and fresh vegetables, and we supply the Welsh retailers with own label and our brand Here. We are a strategic partner for Food Waste Action Week, and I'm looking forward to discussing some of the things that we've done at Puffin to help reduce food waste and also share some tips to you all on how to prevent food waste at home.
I'm Mark Bond. For the last 2 years, I've been coordinating a project, Welsh Government funded, but hosted within Pembrokeshire Local Authority, linked to the massive waste and recycling service change that obviously affected every household here in Pembrokeshire.
Good morning, Zoe. My name's Edward. I'm with Castell Howell Foods. At our peak, we can deliver pre-COVID around 1,000 pallets a day to the hospitality and food service sector. And it just seems a little bit immoral that a too high a percentage of those 1,000 pallets end up in food waste bins or food waste bins at best. So that's wrong. So we teamed up quite a few years ago with WRAP. We are signatories to the Courtauld Agreement, and we've tried to be as active as we can be with a WRAP initiative, Guardians of Grub.
So Guardians of Grub has been developed by WRAP with the hospitality and food service sector, and it's a free resource encouraging people to measure the amount of food that's being wasted in the different areas within, it could be a restaurant or a hotel. So looking at preparation, spoilage, looking at plate waste. And then it's about having some great resources on there. So you're tracking how much and where food's being wasted, and then having the resources there to understand what you can do differently, and seeing some brilliant training resources as well as case studies of what people have done. I think as a sector, it's really about reducing the cost, and the cost to the sector is billions of pounds a year in terms of the amount of food that's wasted. And I think there's a prime opportunity now to really to use that free resource and to get behind it and think about what businesses in the hospitality and food service sector can do differently as we're coming out of lockdown.
I'm Marten Lewis, and I am the head of corporate responsibility at Bluestone Resort. One of the things that we've done is we're in the process of changing all of our menus so that when we reopen, they will be quite changed from the past. And a key part of the criteria for change is around minimizing food waste. So the way that we offer food is going to change completely in terms of anything that you order will be ordered in bit parts. So if you want steak and chips, you won't get a side garnish of salad and peas with it, and you won't be asked if you want them or not. You'll be in your menu, you'll be presented with the idea that you sort of construct your meal yourself. So you will only order a side salad if you want it. And if you want a side salad, you can request just lettuce and onions rather than the tomatoes you'll never eat or whatever it might be. So hopefully that will obviously reduce our time and effort and cost, and also reduce the amount of plate waste that occurs, which is a key part really of what happens. we're about 150,000 guests a year. So there's a lot of plates of food being eaten here at Bluestone. So we're really aware of the fact that we have a large responsibility for minimizing that waste. We try to ensure it's as tasty as possible, so there isn't any waste, but if you get presented with something that you didn't think was on the plate or you don't really fancy, you won't eat it. Also, another key element of reducing waste through the Guardians of Grub in particular is our food weighing. We're weighing all food during preparation time, all food during service time, and all food waste, this is waste, all food waste that comes from stores and from anything that's spoiled that doesn't actually reach the kitchen, so that we can get a much better idea as to where our waste issue is happening.
Another challenge we faced during COVID is food waste, which has been incurred due to our customers closing quite quickly without any warning as well. So our food waste for the past 12 months, it's trebled. We've tried to redistribute the best we can to food banks, etc. But it's still a major challenge for ourselves within the supply chain, let alone with our customers who've also had to dispose of food in the past 12 months.
Our link to local charities and our work in relationship with our community partners at Patch, Frame and VC Gallery mean that all of our food waste at the beginning of the lockdowns, and then each time our opening date has been pushed on, we've obviously had more waste, because food that's, when every time we have to push on a month, there's more food that's going to go out of date in that period. So we've managed to, it's close to 2 tons of food now has gone into the local community. So we haven't wasted any of that food because we've already got those systems in place to be able to distribute food surplus at any time at a drop of a hat.
Hello, I'm Tom Lynch from a charity project in Swansea on the High Street called Matthew's House. We set up expressions of giving hope. So Matthew's House is there to deliver hospitality and hope in the heart of Swansea. That's our strap line, you could say. And one of the ways that we do that, so we have 6 ways of giving hope. And one of them is called our Matt's Cafe project. It's a pay-as-you-feel cafe. We're part of the Junk Food Project as well. So we support people who are vulnerable, homeless, rough sleeping, struggling with isolation, loneliness, mental health, and then the hospitality side of it. So we cook wonderful, lovely meals with food waste, as well as public donations.
I want to come to you, Charlotte. RAP has initiated this Food Waste Week to raise awareness and to try and change behaviour. And you mentioned at the beginning what an impact food waste has on climate change. Can you talk to us a bit about that and why you felt it was such an important issue that it deserves its own Food Waste Action Week?
Yeah, I think food waste is something that, let's say, 80% of the people in the UK are concerned about climate change, but only 30%, that's sort of 1 in 3 of us, are really making that connection between wasting food and climate change. And that's what we've got to shift. Because if you look at food production as a whole globally, it's about 10% of all greenhouse gas emissions that it contributes towards. And 1/3 of that food that's grown globally is thrown away. Now, there's amazing stats out there, but we all need to really realise that the fact that 20 million slices of bread are thrown away in our homes every day, and every slice of bread that we throw away is having an impact. And that's something that we can change, and it's something that we can do something about. And that's what Food Waste Action Week is there to challenge. It's there to challenge people to do things differently. Each day of the week, we've got a different challenge, a simple tip that people can follow, whether that's looking at how you're storing your products, whether your fridge temperature is right, how you're using your leftovers, and really, start to think differently, because every slice of bread, every potato, every piece of chicken, every single thing that you throw away that could have been eaten is having an impact, and we need to start throwing less things away. And I think whether that's in our homes or when we're out of home, we need to start sort of waking up to this and really making a change. But we also, in RAP, there's so much work going on, the Courtauld commitment and the great work that the signatories are doing through the Courtauld commitment. And then there's the roadmap work as well. So there's a lot of work going on with citizens at home, work going on in the hospitality and food service sector, work going on with the retailers, and also work going on with the producers as well. And in addition to that, redistribution. So we work across all of that chain. But Food Waste Action Week is very much about how do we get citizens to wake up to the fact that wasting food is causing climate change and we need to do something about it. And there's easy things that we can do to make a difference, because 70% of the food wasted in the UK is in our homes. It's not in that supply chain, it's in our homes post farm gate, and we need to make that difference in our homes.
Yeah, that's really substantial. 70% of all the food waste is actually us in our homes. Claire, you said you had some tips for people at home, what we should be thinking about and how we could reduce food waste.
That's right. So yes, some really interesting stats there from Charlotte. And potatoes are actually one of the most common wasted foods in the homes. I think, Charlotte, you'll correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's something like 4.4 million potatoes a day are thrown away, which is just, yeah, phenomenal, really.
It's a substantial amount of potatoes, and all of the resources that have gone into the potatoes, the fertilizers, the water, the land use, it all adds up.
It does. And I think, you know, we need to understand the reasons why this is happening in consumer homes. And I think, you know, initiatives like Food Waste Action Week are really important and really, you know, really worthwhile. And, you know, we take it really seriously at Puffin Produce, which is why we, you know, we are a strategic partner for the week. And I think it's all about, you know, trying to get the message through to consumers about how they can reduce waste and what are the causes for it. For example, you know, getting the message across that when potatoes grow sprouts, you don't have to throw them away and they're perfectly fine to eat. All you have to do is just knock them off. You know, storage, a lot of potatoes are thrown away because they've turned green. But if people understood how to store them correctly, so, you know, in a cool, dark place, away from light, then they won't go green, and therefore they won't get thrown away. Potato peel as well, that is actually classed as food waste. So, you know, one of our messages for the week, Food Waste Action Week next week, will be to try and encourage consumers not to peel potatoes, and, you know, there are, you know, the health benefits of the skin, and if you do peel the skin, then there are actually uses for them as well.
That's a really good point on the potato skins. I mean, if you don't peel your potatoes, it saves time. And a lot of us are, you know, we've got busy lives. And the other thing is you've got all that fibre and the nutrients in the skin as well. But I've got my daughter, she says, the best mashed potatoes I have at home because you keep the skins on, and she loves the skin. She says, oh, that's her favourite mashed potatoes with the skins. And it's changing that perception of what you do with your everyday products and thinking about them differently, and not just because you've been brought up to do something one way. And it's challenging those and thinking I can do things differently, and what you can do with them. So whether you don't peel your potatoes or you use your peelings to create your your crisps, there's some great things you can do with those skins.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's all about like confidence, isn't it? Having the confidence to know what to do with the produce. And it's just really upsetting, you know, to hear that people just throw them away because they don't really know what to do with them. You know, people might not know that you can freeze mashed potato, you can freeze your roast potatoes. So all those little things will really help add to the cause of you know, reducing food waste at home.
As you say, it's just changing our mindset about some of these things. I mean, Tom, it must make you angry when you see how much food gets thrown away when you're in touch daily with people who haven't got that luxury, who haven't got access to the abundance of food.
When we started, we messaged 157, I think, suppliers, hospitality sector, companies, businesses, all around Swansea, asking, what do you do with your food waste? We'd love it to make meals for people who are starving, actually starving. We waited 2 weeks. We didn't have one reply, not one reply. That was 4 years ago. So we started off with, we're going to do it anyway. We'll take public donations and go from there. And then all of a sudden we had a first Tesco collection as well. So that was what was helped us start up. Roll on a month or two, and because people could see what we were doing, they thought, oh, actually, maybe not reply, because everyone binned the letters, I assume. But, oh, they're doing a good thing. So when we asked again, they were like, yes, great. Oh, yeah, we'll support that. So 2.5, 3 years in, we were managing probably 30 collections a week. So that's 30 individual collections by volunteers who'd go out 6 a.m., 7 a.m. in the morning before they start work, going out 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. at night, to supermarkets, restaurants, market stalls, all places like that would have food that we could collect, the stuff that isn't sold at supermarkets, the chicken in restaurants that was cooked beforehand, but they've got nowhere to go, so they freeze it and we pick it up. The fish in the markets, the ugly stuff often gets thrown. So we'll have stunning fish, but it's just the ugly stuff. But people don't look at the ugly stuff when it's in fish cakes, fish pies, all different things like that. So we collect the food then. And that's what I mean, it's hard work. So it's taken a lot of resource to build an army of volunteers.
It's a really good PR win for a supermarket to hand over its surplus food waste, and they look very good for doing that. But I suppose we need to be mindful of the fact that that is waste that they would ordinarily have to pay to dispose of. And all of the brilliant initiatives that take this food waste on and then use as much of it as possible, the supermarkets have made an enormous saving on not having to dispose of that waste in the first place. And then it might be those places that can't use all of the food waste that they've been given, or that they'll use some, but it will still create more waste. That has to then be disposed of, and that comes at a cost quite often. So I just feel that working with the supermarkets a little bit earlier on, because they are generating this amount of waste daily, and it's wonderful that people are taking this stuff off their hands, but they're making a massive saving at the same time. And I just wonder where that saving can be reallocated or fed back into some sort of circular economy, or that perhaps whatever they would have spent to destroy their waste beforehand might be reallocated a bit more responsibly, because it's a massive saving that they're making. That's all.
With regards to redistribution, I think we do need to be careful not to make an industry on redistribution when the actual aim is to minimise food waste. Unfortunately, it's been a bit of a perfect storm with COVID. It's created additional food waste. Certainly from food service and hospitality, but the need by default is much greater. Now, I don't think we should go into the social impact of COVID too much on this discussion, but nonetheless, the need is there. So, but I think in kind of normal times, I think we need to recognise food waste is inevitable. Supermarkets, and I'll use supermarkets and restaurants, we do try and ourselves in the supply chain, we do try and ensure we have 100% availability for our customers 100% of the time. So that in itself incurs food waste. And we always find, even when schools aren't shut due to COVID, we supply 1,800 schools within Wales, but schools might be shut because of snow or ice. And then we'll end up with quite a lot of eggs and milk and yogurts, which need to be redistributed. But that's not to say, a very valid point earlier, what we have doesn't necessarily suit food banks because of whatever it might be. It might be in catering packs. There was a body of work by RAP and DEFRA back in May of last year with regards to giving people like ourselves some autonomy to extend best before dates. Now, I think this is another... This needs to be looked at constantly, because we would, and it wouldn't be no different to us and Breaks and Bid Foods and the other wholesalers. We'd ask some of our suppliers whether they could extend the date, the best before date, And even though it was microbiologically safe to do so, I was surprised and disappointed by quite a lot of attitude to say, well, if you extend the date, then the eating quality will be affected. So it's not a microbiological, nobody's going to go ill, but that pate isn't going to be quite as we'd like. So there was quite a bit of brand protection there, which I kind of guess, I kind of get to a degree, but nonetheless, it just seemed to be the wrong thing to say at the wrong time. So with regards to best before dates, continuation of the work between RAP, DEFRA and the Food Standards Agency on what is acceptable. And again, I think that the industry, whether it's retail or food service, are losing a trick with freezing and frozen food. You mentioned the slices of bread there earlier. Every one of those slices could potentially be frozen, I would suggest. And that's kind of more of an education and a change in consumer behaviour with regards to how do you best use your food, because notwithstanding it's going into the bin and the environmental impact, every one of those slices of bread or milk that goes down the sink costs money.
Do you think people understand the environmental impacts of food waste that Charlotte laid out for us in the beginning?
To a point, at a Welsh Government level, we are in pursuit of being the best in the world at recycling, and that has a sort of double-edged sword in that if you're really encouraging recycling, then you're giving people a license to just keep buying more and more stuff, and you know, you're chasing high targets, you know. So now Pembrokeshire has achieved such amazing results, you know, an increase of 34% of food waste is now being collected. But that is that ultimately addressing the whole waste hierarchy? It's brilliant that we're hitting government statistics of recycling, but it's not necessarily deterring people to buy more. And if authorities are trying to push recycling, and like in Pembrokeshire's case, we've done a very good job of that, then we've got to come in really hard with the reduce and reuse stuff.
I'll just come in as a consumer, and some of that changes to my own lifestyle. And it links with my passion to reduce plastic waste that I'm producing. So I've made a conscious effort of buying fresh vegetables that aren't wrapped in plastic waste and teaching myself to cook with as much of that food, using mash without peeling the potatoes and different things like that, then feeling terribly guilty about throwing anything away. During COVID, loads of people started buying seeds and growing their own vegetables and everything, which again sort of gave everybody a whole new respect for the amount of effort and energy that goes into producing this food. It's taken me a long time to grow these potatoes or these tomatoes, and I've had to really love and care for them in order to grow them. By chucking them away, I'm just going to be really gutted with myself.
At Puffin, on the manufacturing side, like our food waste is actually very low in Puffin itself, and any surplus that we do have goes direct to stock feed. All of my colleagues in Puffin are taught and told like we should cherish our potatoes. So, you know, if we see one on the floor in the factory, we should pick them up and try and find out why it's on the floor. So I thought that was, that's quite a nice thing internally that we do.
Is there something around supermarkets only taking the most perfect looking cauliflowers and the most perfect looking fruits and vegetables? Is there something about ugly food going to waste that perhaps as consumers we need to be more accepting of the natural form of these foods?
There are companies, I think, that are selling sort of wonky veg, aren't there? Well, some retailers do, and I think there's also a company called Oddbox. So they take that wonky veg and it's sold as wonky veg that might not be as straight a carrot as you want or as round a potato. But I think it's about that re-education, and I think that's something that has been mentioned a few times today, is about we need to change our minds and change what we see as a social norm on what something should look like, or how we cook things, or how we prepare things. And I think that's something we all need to challenge ourselves on, isn't it? And look at what we can do differently. I think there's been some really, really good thoughts and discussions shared today, whether that's about how we use our surplus food, to what we can do within the hospitality and food service sector, to distribution, to actually, the amazing work that's been done in terms of the recycling rates within Wales. What we can do as part of Food Waste Action Week is we can all make a difference, and that's a difference in our homes of what we're doing with the food that we're buying. So it's very much about buying the right amount of food. It's about using that food, storing it properly, and getting creative. And I think we've had lots of discussions today about how to get creative with our food. So it's about challenging how we're doing things. So Food Waste Action Week, follow it on social media. Look at all the hints and tips that are coming out on the Love Food Hate Waste website. And also, get involved in the challenge. And we've got, if you go to Instagram, we've got the Food Waste Action Challenge that you can follow, and, get behind that. And there's some great prizes. But we'll also see during the week lots of ideas and tips coming from partners across the UK, such as Puffin's Food. And I think get behind it and make this week a real success.
We'll all follow that on social media. That looks like a hashtag Food Waste Action Week, and we'll share the details in the links below this video. But may I just finish really by thanking you all so much for being part of today's conversation. I think I've learned something, and it's given me a renewed focus on what I can do better. Thanks all very much for your time, and thank you for listening to today's conversation. This has been an episode of Build Back Better from For the Region, and we'll catch up with you again next week. Bye for now.